So welcome to Bonnie's Designs. This is a live stream. I'm working in my Johann Christmas colour book, and I'm playing with quite a few different brushes because they're having different effects. So I've got some riggers in there because some of the spaces are very big and some of the leaves are quite small and tiny. And I've got my trusty little photocopy paper with the colours that I was playing with originally. And we're using the Dr. Martens PH Hydrus watercolours, and I mixed a colour wheel. So I've got some greens, purpley blues, cold blues, reddy blues, pinky reds, orangey reds, and then yellows. So I should have a whole range of colours there. And I'm doing a little bit of mixing in the palette as well. So if I want a robin red, I can get a different red. If I want a cherry red, I can mix these two together. So that's quite a nice way of working, and it just lends itself to some nice colours in your work. Although this is the first page, so it's a little bit of a practice page. And then I've got kind of just an ordinary brush to do a little bit of colour mixing that won't go to much of a point anymore. So that's quite nice. Always try and mix with an old brush. So I wanted these poinsettias. I've got one left to do here. Oh, I've got two left. There's this one. So I'm going to, with quite a large rigger, this is a number 3. So I've got a damp brush. Just take a little bit of water off it. And then just tease that colour around. It's not too dark from the centre. And if we're lucky, what we should have, although I did put quite a lot of colour on here, so we may not get that highlight colour. But again, this is a different way of working in this book, which is quite nice. And the riggers, because they're damp, they're teasing that colour up. So I'm going to leave that little highlight there and go back in, get some more rich colour. Because I wanted this book to be a little bit richer in colour. I love my pale watercolours in the other books, but I was inspired to buy this book by the Hydrus Vivid Colours. So I didn't intend to do these wishy-washy colours in here, but I've resorted back to my really easy, quiet way of working. So I'm going to have to vamp up the next page. Because I had intended it to all be very, very vivid and bright. Because I was using these paints in the Kirby Roseanne Animorphia, and I just so loved the turquoises that I fell in love with, that I thought I have to go buy. This is the same kind of palette that I was playing with. And I've started to label things so I can find things. So inspired by these gorgeous teals and greens and very vivid colours that I just thought I have to buy this Johann Christmas book and do it in the same colours. So I didn't really want to resort to these, but it's just lent itself to a really easy way to flow in. So I've got to keep myself in check that this is not going to be a pale watercolour book. So I've got a little bit of colour left there, hopefully enough to do this poinsettia. So the next one I'm going to do in really teal bright colours and kind of be a little bit more adventurous, I think. Because it was the colours that inspired me to buy the book. So I didn't really want to resort back to my traditional colours. Because I think sometimes you can get a bit stuck in a rut with colours. So I can just go around now and touch all these curled leaves. I think there's 3, and they're going to be a little bit paler. So I now need a really deep, vivid green. So I want and always go in your yellows first. And of course I didn't do that, did I? No, I didn't do that. So let's just see. I think I'm going to go in with the cad yellow and see what that does. Yep, that's given me a really rich. So I've used a cold cobalt blue, but I've used a cad yellow instead of a lemon yellow. That's given me a bit of a darker green. In fact, I think I possibly could have it a little bit darker. So I went in with the blue, and then I pulled some yellow into here, so I'm going to put that blue across. And we'll see what that does. That's the same green but with more blue, and that's a really deep colour. So again, I'm just going to touch the end there. So I've got a damp brush with colour on the end. And tease this colour out. Now that's a little bit wetter than I'd like to be, so I can nip twice, and instantly that's taken a lot of the water away. And I'm going to leave that to curled over highlight there. And I actually don't want a lighter leaf, but you can do all sorts if you want to. And then on the last leg, when it's very pale, I can go back in on the curls, because they're obviously going to be a lot paler. So I quite like that dark colour. It's just brightened it up a little bit. Again, going with this one. I'm probably at the slightly wrong angle for this. So if anybody's got any questions, this is a live show for Ustream.tv and also recorded for YouTube. I am in the Johann Basford Christmas colour book with Long Riggers and Dr. Martin's Hydrus watercolours. And I've clipped the centre together, so I've got a curl, so I'm not damaging the pages back, but it's just made it easier for me to turn, because that's so much easier to work, especially if you want a watercolour effect. You need to be comfortable, you need to be able to swish that brush backwards and forwards. So I've kind of got a natural shadow. So that looks quite nice. I'm actually going to leave it. If you start playing with it, you can, sometimes things happen quite naturally. Very similar to this one here. That was a natural, and I could have carried on, but I didn't. So I quite like that little bit there. They're a different leaf. And then we've got some more here. And again, this is a really peaceful way to work. You don't have to open tubes of paint every 5 seconds. And again, I've just got that really natural shadow here, which looks like it's a natural shadow. So again, a little bit of dark on the edges, follow that round, and then kind of take that up there. And as long as you're fairly quick, you're going to have a natural shadow there, so you don't have to go back to it, and that's what I like. It's a one dip, one brush wonder. You just kind of just get in the natural position, so your wrist is just in a lovely position to swing out. A damp brush, and if you go down around the edges first, that colour's not going to mix as easily, and then you can tease everything else out, and that should give you a natural shadow. And you don't have to touch that anymore, which is good for the page. Now I do have a fair amount of colour on here, so I'm just going to go over here, and again this is going to be paler, so I might have to darken that up a bit. And now this is very pale, but that's going to let me go around all the curled leaves and be paler. But because it's connected to that green, it matches. It wouldn't match if I got a different green. If I mixed a different green, it wouldn't work. But that's the same green, just watered down. And again, that's quite nice. That it's a different leaf. Now, if you really don't like it, you can go over it. If I really think that does not go, I can just retouch that. And it's dried. Never go over something that's wet. So I can just go over that there, because in theory that would be quite dark under there. And then if I really don't like that one, I can take it back. So I've got to this one now. And I love the fact that you do it once and you don't have to go back to it. It's just a damp brush and just the tip has got the colour on it. The trick is to, as I say, get in a nice comfy position, so we know there will be a shadow there and there, and then just tease that colour out. And so I want to do some very vivid colours in the other. So I need a bigger brush, but I don't need quite as damp as that. I want to do this one next. But I just love this really peaceful way of working. So you get quite a nice watercolour effect. With very little water. And if you have a small space, you don't have to re-wet the brush. This is a long rigger. So I don't have to re-wet the brush. I can just... But once you've done a photocopy practice page, you will learn how wet the brush needs to be. And of course, the water's clear. All the paint is going on the page. So as a tight Yorkshire lass, can't do with wasting the paint in the I can't waste the paint. And again, because I let that dry just that little bit, that's given me a bit of a shadow under there. And I think we're done. Oh no, there's some on this side. There's some more here. So I'll finish this page off, and then I want to do some quite vibrant colours then. There could be a bark alert. Now, if you were thinking about this as a normal painting, you'd think that this is going to be a little bit darker, this one. I don't know why there should be a bark alert, because the postman's not around. So I'm going to leave this dark under here. And if I go back to this side, when I come back over here, that should be paler. I don't really like that line I've got, so I can let that dry and do another one. Again, just take a little bit of that off there. So sometimes you find different techniques. I've never done this before, but it just seemed to lend itself to some quite nice shadows. So again, I've got that colour now. I can just take that up there. Get rid of that line. I can't do that while it's still wet, really, because this is not watercolour paper, so you need to dry it a little bit first. So you can get some quite nice effects. But it is quite important to have a nice angle to work at, because otherwise your flow of colour will not... I can do that all dark if I want, and then take that round there. And it's fairly quick as well, which again, something I quite like. It's quick. Turn that one that way. And if it's a bigger space, you need a damper brush. it's not such a big space. Then you don't really need a damp brush. So again, I've got a bit of a shadow on there, a bit of a shadow on that one. So I think I've done all those. I just have this leaf to do. So this leaf has got obviously a variegated thing on it. It's going to be pale in the middle and dark at the edges, or it could be dark at the edges and pale in the middle. Let's see. I think I'm going to do it dark in the middle and pale on the outside. So I'm just going to put a touch of blue into here. And then just test to see if it's not too similar. So I think I said dark in the middle, didn't I? So do dark in the middle. So this is going to be a very strong opaque colour. You're not going to be able to have any very flat colour this. Oops. Need a little bit more hand cream on it. Your hands do, if you've got dry hands, it's easier. It's not as easy to hold a paintbrush because I don't grip the paintbrush. So again, that's going to be a nice contrast. So we've got another couple of these here, and there's quite a lot of colour on the paintbrush. This is probably a little bit too big, this this rigger, and you wouldn't need a rigger if you were doing flat colour. You could just use an ordinary round one. I just like the fact that it bounces along quite nicely. And again, I can't get to that very easily, so I'm turning it round so that you have a natural curve to your brush. Because if you're trying to go against your wrist, it's not comfortable, you'll go over your line. And it's always easier to curve out. So this is quite a nice angle. But this one is curving the wrong way. So you could curve, if you wanted it really perfect, my pencil case in the way. You would have your curve this way here, so you could get really next to that line and not go over. And all those this way, sweeping that way. And now you could turn it right round and use the curve to your advantage this way. There's a lot of light here. And I do have my little fire on because it's nippy today. So that's a really easy, when you're doing a professional big painting, it's always easier to do it that way. I think we have another one here, which is quite good because although I thought there was a lot of that colour, there isn't. Because I'm using it very, very, very thick. And this paintbrush is that little bit big, but it should be alright. And the dampness of the rigger is going to tease all that colour out. This one's going that little bit pale really, but may just have enough to finish one. Always make that little bit more because you can always use it somewhere else. And the watercolours will never dry. They'll dry out, but you can reconstitute them, so again you're not wasting them. So it's not quite as flat as I would have liked, but I have another one there to do. So just a touch of water to kind of reconstitute some of that colour. And this is another fairly fast way of working. And again, that practice page, you'll get used to the size of the brush, the dampness of the brush, the amount of paint you need to mix, practice going within the lines. So when you come to your page, you've already had a bit of a practice. So I've got to put the pale around here now. So hi, welcome to Bunny's Designs. Have a look at that though. So I need to do some ivy twigs, and I need to do this pale. So what I'm going to do is, I like this colour. I'm just going to put some water to it. And always be careful when you're crossing your work. You shouldn't really cross your work. I just got into the habit of doing that. So that was the colour. So if I use this colour, it's paler, and all I've done is add water to it. I might just add a little touch of this to it, but I don't want to take it away too much, because in nature, you see, that would look silly. That green next to that would look silly. I just need to take it away. And I've missed one there, look now, so let's see what happens with this one. And again, I quite like that. It's very similar to the other one, but it's got to be connected. It's got to have some of this original colour, otherwise it's too fake. Now if you want to do it purple and pink, or it depends on how you colour. This is why all these colour books are always so different, because everybody colours them differently. And I've missed another bit there as well, so I've got to go back in there. But it's got a connection, and that's always a good thing. Unless you're doing abstract and you really don't want it, then obviously you really don't want it connected. But there doesn't seem to be a lot of that colour, but there's a lot of that green in there, and I have to try and make it back again. And I quite like that one for the stems as well, because the stems are sometimes paler, and then the holly ones can be darker, so that's actually going to work quite well. And I've just realised that if that's supposed to be that one, it actually almost matches the originals. So I should have done that colour really. Which is actually on my palette. In fact, that's what I used. I did use that one. I put that one into the dark one. So I've got to be a bit careful because I need that little bit of dark. Because I've forgotten to. So we'll just put this into here. But the beauty of this one is that it can go as pale as I want. So I've got enough to do all these, because there's nothing worse than running out of colour. And you don't need to run out of colour with watercolours because they'll always constitute back to colour. All you have to do is add water. So again, that's quite nice. And because I've used half of that from there, it's the same leaf but a baby one. There is a connection. So I quite like some of those colours. Turn my little old fire down because it's getting quite warm in here. So I should have another one to do. I think I've done them all. So what I need to do now is to go back into... Where was it? I can't see it now. It was a double one, wasn't it? Here. I'd left 2 spaces here. And because I didn't go to the end, I can pick up some of this dark. And it's not quite dark enough, so I can just make it that little bit darker. And it's not perfect, but I won't notice that. So I need a finer brush because it is a little bit dry. So I'm going to follow, that one is this one. That's that one. And if you really wanted to, you could do a background. I won't with this particular one, but I have thought of backgrounds with some of the others. The holly stems I want to do darker. So these are the kind of ivy. I just need a bit of a wetter brush, that's all. But again, this is an easy, quick way of colouring. Just teasing that colour in. That's a holly one, so I'm going to leave that one alone. This isn't a holly one. I think I've done that one. And this is the ivy. quite a pale, subtle colour, but it's quite nice. It's just getting rid of that stark white. And I think we've caught up with ourselves. No, we're back to our little robin. So probably quite a dark background would look nice on this actually. So I'm going to make, I've got a very rich green here. But it's, I just need a touch of blue in there to give it a kind of a very kind of it's a nice colour. So now we can go in here with a really nice deep, oh, and run over the little bird's feet. And he's now sitting on a branch instead of being in thin air, which is always nice. So I'm going to go around here and then I'm going to lighten it up very carefully and just go around some of the hollies that don't look kind of as natural as they should. And again, being the rigger, there's a fair amount of colour in there to tease out. And I've missed that one, so I could either go in there, because this has gone quite light now. So I want to do some vibrant colours. I'm not happy with that holly really, but I suppose we can. And then there's a holly here. Some of these hollies I don't really like, and this doesn't have a highlight at all, so just pop that in there. Again, you can feel when the brush is dry because it's starting to oops, and there's another one here, look. So I think it's almost finished. I could probably go back in and do some other things with it, but I kind of like that one as it is, and it was a good practice. And I quite like the colours. It was a good practice. And more traditional colours. Whoops, my lamp is having a wander, as it does. Oh no, I've just broken that now. That's two I've just broken in the space of No, they're not going to go together. Oh, I just seem to break everything I touch today. I've just broken 3 of these today. Oh, that's very strange. I just have to find a clasp or a clip, because for some reason oh gee, everything's not working today. Clasp. I don't think that's going to work, but we'll see if it will hold it. For some reason my camera has got kind of a bit of a wobble on. So some of the colours I quite like, and some of them are a bit wishy-washy, but as I say, they're not these vibrant colours that I wanted. So I'm going to have to find these colours again. So I'll have a quick look at these. So the practice I did, that was the practice to have a play with the baubles. And then I had a little bit of a practice here, and I've resorted back to traditional colours. It's a little bit brighter. I didn't like the middle. I never like the middles, but of course this way of watercolouring is always going to be a little bit different because, and I've creased this page now, but the cat sat on it. Thank you, cat. Let me just have a look at this. Just have a look at this. I think that was this colour, so I'm just going to take some of this off. I'm just not happy with this colouring. I wanted it a little bit darker than this. It's slightly better. It's slightly better, shall we say. So that's for that one. Quite like these colours. Need to do the horns, the stags. I don't know what colour to do here, and then we've just done that one. So this could be some nice purpley colours. These baubles could be quite bright. The owl could be, oh, I could do the owl teal. I think I'll do the owl. I'm not sure if I should just tear these pages out because they're not connected. I'm not sure if they are connected. To double check. I don't think they are. I mean, that's almost the same. No, I'll try not to. But I'm going to just put that like this to stop it flapping. Try it a different way. So I use my giant paper clips to clip it so that I can put it under there when I need to turn it round. So I can get rid of that brush to put those in there because it's easier to lift that up a little bit. So we've got some quite nice purples and teals, and I'll have a go with those. I think I said I used the round think I said I used the round brush, didn't I? Yes, I think I did. So I'll have a bit of a play with the round brushes. Leave those over there for the minute. So I'll stop that recording and I'll start another one, because it was nice to do a traditional one. So thank you for watching.